Welcome back to the World According to Briggs. Today we are diving into a list that's a little more intense than usual. The top 10 most dangerous countries in the world. Now, we're not talking about places where your Wi-Fi goes out. Not that kind of dangerous. These are countries where safety is a real concern. So buckle up, because we're about to take a virtual tour of some seriously risky territories. But hey, don't worry. Today you won't need a bulletproof vest. Just a solid internet connection. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 10, Honduras. Honduras is a beautiful country, but it's plagued by gang violence, drug trafficking, and a pretty weak police force. The streets of cities like San Pedro Sula are notorious for violent crimes, having one of the highest murder rates in the world. Until recently, it was the #1 most dangerous city, but Caracas, Venezuela pushed them out of the #1 spot. The government's struggle to control these issues means travelers and locals alike have to keep their head on a swivel when you're walking around the streets in places like this. Now, myself, I've been to some of the resort places over the years in Honduras, and when I was in the military near the border of Honduras. I've never been to this actual city, San Pedro Sula, but the things I've read are just horrifying. So what are their problems? A, gang violence. The streets are rife with gang activity, making it easy to get caught in the crossfire or be targeted for extortion. B, robberies and kidnapping. Tourists and locals are often targeted for robberies, and kidnappings for ransom are not uncommon. And then, of course, the corruption here. The police force is underfunded and often just straight up corrupt. So getting help in an emergency is, it's 50-50. Number 9, Somalia. Remember the movie Black Hawk Down? How horrible Somalia was. It was just this wasteland of warlords battling each other in the streets, then eventually battling the United States Army. Yeah, if you saw the movie, it is pretty much like that. Except now the US military isn't there anymore. Somalia has been in turmoil for decades, mostly due to a civil war and the rise of extremist groups like Al-Shabaab. This East African nation has practically no stable government, and piracy along the coast makes it even more dangerous. So you can get caught up in this garbage being offshore a couple miles. The lack of infrastructure and widespread poverty adds to the instability, making daily life a constant struggle for survival. So what are their issues that make them so dangerous? A, terrorism. Al-Shabaab frequently carries out bombings, attacks, and kidnappings, especially in the urban areas. I mean, what's the point of going out to the middle of the frickin' desert where there's like 6 people that have no money and kidnapping one of them? What's your ransom demand? 2 goats? B, piracy. Traveling by sea is highly dangerous due to Somali pirates who target ships along the coast. We've all seen those videos. C, lawlessness. With no strong central government, the rule of law is almost non-existent, making crime rampant. I mean, it's survival of the fittest here. Number 8, Sudan. Sudan's danger comes from ongoing conflicts and a fractured political landscape. The Darfur region, in particular, has seen horrific violence and genocide over the years. Even with peace agreements, the situation remains fragile and tensions are still high between various groups. Add in poverty and scarce resources, and you've got a recipe for disaster. This place has been in a drought since the Romans were in this area. The Romans really stayed towards the coastline, but I'm sure they came out here and went, Naughtius, yes, Dickus, I don't think there's any water out here. So what makes this place so dangerous? Well, an armed conflict. Various regions, especially in the Darfur region, are still plagued by armed militias and government forces that are always clashing. Human rights violation, ethnic cleansing, SA, and other atrocities are tragically common in the conflict zones. And C, a lack of healthcare. Access to medical care is extremely limited, making even minor injuries potentially life-threatening. Number 7, the Central African Republic. The Central African Republic, or CAR, is a landlocked country that's been torn apart by civil war and religious violence. Different militias control different parts of the country, making it a dangerous place where human rights abuses are common. The government barely has control over any of its territories, leading to widespread lawlessness. I watched a documentary on what's going on here with the different, civil war and all that. It was pretty horrific. women will go into the jungle or the woods, whatever, and get water, and bad things happen to them there. If they take males with them to go get water, the males get killed and bad things happen to them. So that's their life. That's what they have to deal with. So what makes it so dangerous? A, militia violence. Different armed groups control large parts of the country, leading to frequent clashes and civilian casualties. B, ethnic and religious conflicts. Yeah, they got a whole bunch of that going on. Christians and Muslim communities can flare up at any time and people start getting whacked. C, kidnappings. Abductions for ransom are common, especially in the more remote areas controlled by militias. Number 6, the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC. Yeah, we're staying in Africa. We've got quite a few in Africa on this one. The DRC is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of natural resources, but that's also part of the problem. Armed groups constantly fight over these resources, leading to continuous conflict. The government is weak, corruption is rampant, and violence, especially against women, is shockingly common. Disease outbreaks like Ebola make it even more hazardous. So, what's their problem? Well, obviously, like I said, the armed conflicts. Various rebel groups and militias engage in brutal violence, especially in the eastern regions. B, sexual violence. Not going to get into all that, but you know what's happening. C, disease outbreaks. Disease like Ebola spread rapidly in the absence of proper healthcare facilities and infrastructure. So it's just rough. I mean, if someone doesn't shoot you, you're probably going to pick up a disease. Number 5, South Sudan. South Sudan gained independence in 2011, but peace was short-lived. A brutal civil war broke out just 2 years later, and even with peace agreements, violence persists. Ethnic tensions, famine, and the collapse of the economy contribute to the country's dire situation. Humanitarian crisis is immense, and the lack of security makes life incredibly precarious for people that live here. Why they don't leave? You know, there's a lot that go into that, but they should. You know, sitting here, it's like, why not just pick up and move? Well, that's not always the case. You can't always do that. So what's their problem? A, civil war. Even after peace agreements, skirmishes and violence between rival factions are frequent. B, the famine, ongoing conflict that has led to severe food shortages for millions. And of course, the ethnic violence. I've already discussed that. It's brutal. Number 4, Syria. Syria has been in the headlines for years now, and not for good reasons. The civil war that began in 2011 has led to one of the worst humanitarian crises in recent years. The government, various rebel groups, and ISIS have all committed atrocities, leading to massive displacement, destruction, and loss of life. Even though the intensity of the conflict has reduced in some areas, the country remains a dangerous place with ongoing violence and instability. I mean, this is a country right now that's got about 20,000 mercenaries right now, as we speak, and they don't have many laws they gotta follow. So why is it so dangerous? A, bombings, airstrikes, shellings, and terrorist bombings are a constant threat, especially in contested areas. Kidnappings, both foreigners and locals alike, it doesn't matter. They'll pick you up, they'll ask for some money, and then they'll probably just kill you. C, chemical attacks. There have been multiple instances of chemical weapons being used, causing horrific injuries and death. Number 3, Yemen. Yemen's situation is often called the worst humanitarian crisis in the world. The civil war between Houthi rebels and the Saudi-backed government have devastated the country. Bombings, blockades, and disease outbreaks like cholera have left millions on the brink of starvation. The infrastructure is in ruins, and there's no end to the suffering in sight. It's a place where the basics of life like food and water are luxuries. So why are they so dangerous? A, the airstrikes. The ongoing war has made airstrikes a daily reality, often hitting civilian areas. B, famine and starvation. Blockades and destruction have left to widespread food shortages, with millions at risk of dying from hunger. C, disease outbreaks. With the collapse of healthcare, disease like cholera have spread rapidly, killing thousands. Number 2, Afghanistan. Now that Afghanistan has somewhat calmed down, at least for the United States involvement, there's some details coming out. So you can get an idea of how dangerous it is. Afghanistan has been in a state of conflict for 4 decades, and the situation only got more complicated after the Taliban gained control in 2021. The country is dealing with a major humanitarian crisis, and the Taliban's strict rule has led to widespread fear and repression. Terrorist attacks, poverty, and a struggling economy makes Afghanistan one of the most dangerous places to be right now. Of course, in 2021, we had the bombing as we were leaving the country, which has turned into a political baseball bat, basically, these days, and they just keep using it. 13 U.S. military personnel died in that bombing, and they keep bringing it up. That's all they ever talk about is those 13. Well, 2020, there was 11 lost. In 2019, there was 23 lost. In 2018, there was 16 lost. Now, as a veteran, I have a problem with people only concerned about the military deaths that can benefit a candidate that they're into. That's not a political thing, that's something from a veteran. So why is it so dangerous now? A, terrorist attacks. Suicide bombings and other forms of terrorist attacks are frequent here, especially in crowded places, obviously. B, a political repression. The Taliban's strict law and harsh enforcement put many at risk of random detention or worse. C, the humanitarian crisis. Severe poverty, lack of food, and a crumbling healthcare system means that basic survival is a daily challenge in Afghanistan. All right, before we get to number 1, if you were moving to a country, or at least thinking about it, does the type of government play a part in your decision making? Let us know in the comment section below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel. Make sure you give the video a big thumbs up. And if you like what we're doing, maybe watch a second video. That really helps out the channel. All right, on to number 1. And number 1, Haiti. And number 1, Ukraine. I wasn't sure which one to put here, so I just made it kind of both because they're both very important. The difference is, we all know what's going on in Ukraine. It is a daily reminder on the news. They're at war with Russia. So there's no light I'm going to shed on that one for you. So we'll just stick with Haiti. Haiti tops the list not because of the war, but due to the perfect storm of natural disasters, political instability, and gang violence. They got them all. The assassination of the president in Haiti in 2021 plunged the country further into chaos. Gangs control large parts of the capital of Port-au-Prince, and the government barely functions. Add in earthquakes, hurricanes, and the lack of basic services, and you've got a country that's almost unlivable. Haiti's situation is a tragedy, and there's no easy solution in sight. I saw a government press conference like 3 years ago, and whoever it was said, if you go to Haiti, expect to be kidnapped or robbed. There's no way you're getting out of it. His point was, don't go to Haiti. So why is it so dangerous? A, gang violence. Gangs control large parts of the capital, leading to frequent shootings, kidnappings, and other violent crimes. B, political instability. The lack of a functioning government leads to widespread chaos, making it dangerous to navigate daily life. C, natural disasters. Earthquakes and hurricanes frequently devastate this country, with the infrastructure too weak to handle these disasters, making survival difficult. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you got some information out of it. If you did enjoy this one, you'll probably enjoy one of the 2 videos being suggested right now. Why don't you give them a look? All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.